deliveries into the United States, let alone the record central bank buying for the last 4 years. So yeah, something big is happening, Charlotte, truthfully. Bigger than most of us, I think, understand, including myself.
Certainly, it feels that way. And that's such an interesting question. We'll have to watch how that develops. This idea is it planned, or what is really going on here? So we'll keep an eye on that. We know the implications for gold are huge. I want to bring you over to silver as well, though. I've been getting a lot of questions about what's going on with silver. We've seen a price move. People are interested in that. What are your thoughts on where silver goes?
Ultimately higher than anyone thinks possible. I think it's the most undervalued asset on the planet. The word that I think of is asymmetrical, low downside, high upside. I have been one of the few people who have either been too stupid or had the guts to say that I believe it's the military-industrial complex that has been suppressing the price of silver for a very long time. And I think they've gotten caught. Let me explain. Most of my career, no one ever stood for delivery. Never stood for delivery. Right now, we see the LBMA, the London Metals Exchange, which has watched its inventory. If anyone out there Googles silver stockpiles LBMA, you'll get a graph. And it's like a ski hill. It's straight down to the lowest level of silver since they started keeping records in the 140-year exchange. It's being drained. Now, the LBMA is a T+1 settlement, meaning T for trade plus 1 settle. Third day your metal is moving. Well, they're telling us that it's T+8 weeks because they don't have enough in the way of trucks or manpower to move it. David Jensen, who does an amazing job on Substack, will tell you that they have 190 million ounce float. They have 800 million ounces of silver there, of which 190 million are available to be delivered against the contracts. The other 500 plus million belong to the ETFs largely. But they trade 1.9 billion, excuse me, yes, 1.9 billion ounces per day is what they are in essence doing. The number that they really do is roughly 200 million ounces per day. That's what they post. But he goes on and shows proof, and it's been verified that they only post the final settlement numbers, that they're trading 10 times that amount to 1.92 billion ounces per day, 3.5 times the annual global mine supply, 10 times the float. So if everyone stands for delivery and you only have 1/10 the silver there, do you see a problem? Well, yeah, we're T+8 weeks now. Sorry, not the T+1 that we told you because we don't have enough in the way of trucks. So let me back that up. How does it all happen? 3 years ago when I gave a speech at VRIC, where I always see you, Jay Martin's conference, and Jay is here, and it's the only other conference I always go to. Check it out. It's a good one in Charlotte's backyard in January in Vancouver. I said there's 500 ounces in the tip of a Tomahawk cruise missile. That's the research I came up with. And I don't know anyone saying that before that. A guy comes up to me in the audience and he says, you know, I work for the Department of Defense. I almost fall over. He says, I have designed and helped develop cruise missiles. And I think there's some silver in it, but I think you're wrong on the number. Okay, sorry. He says, I'll get back to you. I don't hear from him. 2 years ago, he shows up with a stack of pictures. He says, remember me? I helped develop the Tomahawk cruise missile. These are all declassified. And he showed me the pictures and he said, you're right, I'll be damned. Between 13 and 14 kilograms of silver in the cone of almost every cruise missile you can think of. Hellfire, Tomahawk, Patriot, you name it. And all sorts of high-tech weaponry and aerospace and submarines, they all have silver in it. And now so the military needs all this silver for high-tech weaponry. It used to be calculated in the supply-demand numbers out of the Silver Institute. Not anymore. It vanished. We have a 250 or 60 million shortfall every year and no military applications in the supply-demand numbers. Okay, so even more interesting. And then you get to the point where you take a look at COMEX. There are 8 banks, 8 Western commercial banks, 8, that hold the largest concentrated short position of any commodity ever traded in the history of the COMEX market in silver. This tiny little market, you have 8 banks that are massively short. And the LBMA, they're trading 3.5 times the annual global mine supply every single day, 10 times the availability of the silver that they have backing those contracts. All of this stuff. Now ask yourself, why? Why would 10 Western banks, 8 Western banks, hold a short position as extremely large as it is, and almost all of it naked, meaning it's not backed by anything? And the question is, in my mind, answered by the reality of the military-industrial complex. Think BlackRock. BlackRock is the custodian, along with JP Morgan, of the world's largest silver trust, SLV. You can naked short the hell out of SLV if you want. So let's just pretend I'm right for a moment. A company like BlackRock, who owns all of the military manufacturers like Raytheon and you know, all of the companies that make the weapons, well, they also are very deep into silver, whether it be PSLV or being a custodian of SLV and GLD. So they suppress the price of silver to make the high-tech weapons to create and sell all around the world to wage war. And then you see countries like the Ukraine get blown up with those weapons. Who then gets the reconstruction contract? Oh yeah, it's BlackRock. My point to you is this. It's not that silver has underperformed or is counterintuitive in its nature. It's why are 8 banks holding it down the way that they are. Now, people would say, well, can that go on forever? No, it can't, because for the first time over the last 2 years, countries that are now coordinated, motivated, sophisticated, and wealthy, mostly the BRICS nations, are saying, okay, well, we'll stand for delivery. And the LBMA, zoom, their inventory is dropping. Now we're T plus 8 weeks. Sorry, we're not the T plus 1 day that we told you we are. And now you're seeing record imports into the United States. Record, month over month over month, huge amounts. So the question is silver traded freely? No. Will it? Yes, I believe it is, because what is happening for the first time ever is that these banks in the West, who are stupid as a mud wall by doing this, are now being challenged by the rest of the world for delivery. So I would say silver offers potential that I've never seen in any asset I've ever owned or would ever think of buying with such low downside. And, you know, I would say to those people, have strong fingertips, trust your gut. There isn't an asset with a better setup on the planet, not just for the fact that it's undervalued or it's being shorted, but the plurality in uses, monetary uses, digital uses, you know, solar panel use, military use. All of these uses for silver in different areas makes it an asset that, and your folks in Canada are lobbying to move it from a industrial to a strategic metal. It is a strategic metal. And my favorite guy on Twitter, Eric Young, King Kong on Twitter, Y-E-U-N-G, I think it is, he says the Chinese are doing the same thing. They're shorting the price in the West to beat it, join them if you can't beat them, and buying it all around the world. China is the second largest producer in the world of silver, and they're flying all around Latin America. Go ask Sean Kuhn from Dolly Varden. He'll tell you they're flying all around Latin America, going right to the miners like Dolly Varden, saying, we will buy your doré and your concentrate and pay double what the West will. Doré being crudely refined bars and concentrate like a sludge, and they ship it back to China to refine it. Now, why would the second largest producer in the world of silver need to do that? And Sean says because it is strategic, they see the future, and they're trying to pickpocket every last ounce on every shelf across the globe. But if you short it first in New York, then you go all around the world and buy it where it's not reflective, where its acquisition doesn't reflect the price change. And in particular, going directly to the miners, where you're disintermediating the market altogether. So yeah, in my mind, Charlotte, it is the most undervalued asset of a generation. And I say that with 1,000% sincerity.
This is fascinating as always. Thank you so much for going into.
Sorry I'm so long-winded, but it's what I'm
silver.
passionate about.
I can tell. I always love to talk to you. I have to wrap it up now and send you back out onto the shore floor, but we'll have you back for a longer conversation for sure. This was great. It's a lot to take in. I always have to watch them a couple of times.
It's all good.
So
Thanks for having me, Charlotte. I look forward to seeing you again in person, probably in January.
Probably. Me as well. And for now, once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com. And this is Andy Scheckman with Miles Franklin.
The MAGA debate over releasing the Epstein files intensifies, while congressional Republicans deliver a win for President Trump by clawing back $9 billion in foreign aid and the MAGA debate over releasing the Epstein files.
Then we'll take advantage of it. And what scares me about bonds is they're in a downtrend. And if we go take a look at it doesn't matter. It could be the 5-year, it could be the 10-year, it could be the 30-year. If we zoom out on this chart, this here is a very strong potential bull flag pattern, meaning yields have rallied up from the COVID scenario. Now it's flagging sideways. Technically, this points to a big move higher. Now, the charts are pointing to about 8% interest. I'm not saying they're going to go there, but that's what the charts are pointing to. This is a very touchy topic. Anytime I say we're going to have high rates, everybody jumps down my throat, which means it's probably a good possibility because the market always does what most people don't want it to do. But this will obviously crush the United States. This will be a huge problem. It'll probably trigger because of some big external event. People don't trust the United States. There's going to be all kinds of huge problems, and they want huge returns and yields on bonds and things like that for it to be worth to take on that risk. So all the interest rate charts are pointing to higher pricing, and this chart is bullish. So it'll take a long time for it to like roll over and turn down. And so even if rates stay going sideways, David, then bonds are probably going to stay going sideways or work their way lower as well. So it's a kind of a dead trade right now. We have to just wait to see which way interest rates go. Based on that, that'll obviously tell us which way bonds are going to go. And I wouldn't be touching bonds. People are trying to pick a bottom. They have been for a long time, and maybe has put in the bottom, but they're wasting years of no real return when they could be somewhere else, like riding the stock market to all-time highs.
Okay, Chris, I wonder if Trump's pressure on the U.S. Federal Reserve is going to weigh in on your analysis at all. Remember, he has been telling the Fed Chair Jerome Powell to cut rates. In fact, last week when the CPI report came out, he said, wow, he said on Truth Social, rates should be 3 percentage points lower from here. I think
free money again. It'd be nice.
I don't know if the market is responding to that sentiment at all. But ever since last week, the 30-year bond yield's been kind of trending down, 10-year as well. Anyway, may just be a coincidence. But well, we have a government that actively wants the rates to be lower. Jerome Powell is slated to be on his way out after his term ends later this year. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, what you're indicating as a threat is very credible, but I'm just wondering whether or not government pressure is going to move the needle the other way.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge drop. That'll probably want to send the stock markets higher. Like something like that is going to definitely have effect in all kinds of areas. I don't know. I don't know what the president can do. Can he force stuff like that? I don't go too deep into it because, I mean, the whole political side and the news and the conspiracies and the underlying secrets going on. I mean, I don't get sucked into it because it's just a nightmare. Nobody ever knows the real answer and everything's always covered up. So follow Christ. I keep it simple.
What are you most bullish on right now?
I would say I'm most bullish on gold. I think only in the next month or two. I think gold is going to have that big run up, a nice rally here. I think gold percentage wise, based on the charts, actually has more to gain than silver does. Silver just had a big pop in the last couple of weeks. It actually just had a nice gain. Right now, I believe the lowest risk play is going to be gold to the upside. The stock market, I think, is on the cusp of stalling out and going sideways and not being a trade anymore for a little while. So I do like gold the best still. And if it starts to break out and run higher here, I mean, it's a great momentum trade for it to run up to about 4,000, 4,100.
Okay, can we talk about something we haven't really talked about at all? Platinum. Can you pull up a platinum chart year to date?
Yeah, platinum has had a massive rocket higher. And this is like a stage 1 base. So platinum went in. Whoops, that was not the tool. Platinum has been in this giant stage 1 base for quite a while. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 years before it broke out. And that's why stage 1 base is dangerous. Just look at the noise. You're making money, you're losing money over and over. It becomes very painful. It has now suddenly broken out. Obviously, there's probably some type of news, something that's triggered the demand for it, or I don't know, but it is screaming to the upside. This type of pattern, this is called a running correction, where price, when it runs up, and then instead of flagging sideways and building a launch pad to go higher, it actually continues to correct as it runs higher. So it's shaking things up in these big, sharp reversals from almost day to day. And it becomes very volatile. To me, it's one of the most dangerous patterns because it can, after this type of pattern, generally it resolves to the downside, but you don't know where the high is going to be. And this pattern can very easily explode to the upside, percentage-wise huge, and then come down and crash and go into a huge bearish phase and move out of favor. So I'm not a fan of it. I don't know what the fundamentals are or what type of news or data came out that I probably sparked it, because there's lots of volume and it was a very strong move, but I wouldn't want to be touching it here. I think the best is to wait for it to correct and build a launch pad, something clean and fresh, before, if it starts to turn up, you can get back long. But right now, it carries a ton of risk just the way it's moved.
Well, you wouldn't say to yourself, okay, I've missed, let's say somebody wasn't aware of this chart, I've missed a 50% run up. You know, let's get in now before it's too late. But we don't know where the top is going to be. You know, when something's already run up 50% and it doesn't usually do that, what is your immediate reaction? Do you know, look at this as a buying opportunity? Or do you think to yourself, all right, whatever, I missed it, move on?
Yeah, it's that simple. Unfortunately, you got to swallow the pill. You'll be like, I missed it, and it's done. I'm not going to try and short it, because this thing could keep going up. Things have gone up. Things have gone up 800%. Like 50% could be the start, right? But you don't know. So, and that's the one thing people need to know. There's tons of things to trade in the markets. Find what you're really good at, a basket of them, and then trying to just stick with them. And usually there's going to be like an opportunity that unfolds. There's always going to be new ones. Just because you miss this doesn't mean you have to like follow the herd and jump in at the, you know, what looks to be a topping pattern. You just have to be like, I missed it. I'll wait for something fresh. To me, I just see a big red bar coming, and a lot of people are going to get stung, and they're going to be like, oh, I took a huge loss on it. I'll be like, well, it was the stupidest trade. Like, you don't chase something in this pattern. Like, that's just kind of risk 101 in technical analysis when it has this type of chart pattern.
Let's finish off on this. There's a sailing proverb. It goes something like, calm seas make poor sailors. I wonder if that applies to trading, Chris. If volatility makes good sailors or traders. I mean, right now it seems like markets are kind of calm, relatively speaking. There isn't a lot of volatility. There isn't a lot of downside risk movement either way. Is this a good breeding? I mean, is this a bad kind of environment to train new traders? You know, is it necessary for an event like Liberation Day on April 1st to create a good training ground to breed new traders? How do you look at volatility?
Yeah, well, I believe it actually just takes a lot of time for people to become a good trader. But you're right. I'm a sailor. I was sailing last weekend, and there's no doubt stormy, big waves, huge winds make you a much better sailor. Now, the thing with volatility in the stock market is, and I've referred to this with you before, is when there's volatility. Right now, I have the volatility index up. When the market sells off, we have a spike in volatility. It acts almost like one of those purpley blue bug zapper lights. It lures in traders because they see things moving fast, and they're like, whoa, if I could catch some of those, I could make a ton of money really quick. Volatility usually chews up and spits out traders. You know, it's a storm that they usually get sucked into and they don't really come out of, unfortunately. But if you can learn to navigate the volatility by sometimes sitting on your hands, by being in a cash position, or at least knowing when to rotate away from it and what can go up while volatility takes place, I think that's really important. But you have to go through. You need to get beat up a few times through these giant spikes of volatility. And then you also have to understand that when volatility is low, like you just mentioned, it's really low right now. It's just grinding higher. People aren't fearful. And people are buying call options galore. They're all betting on higher pricing with leverage. Both of these extremes are where people learn very quickly. Either they get on the wrong side of these volatility spikes, or they get in too early and it keeps dropping and they take a loss and then they miss the bounce. Or we have people right now where they're really confident and comfortable and they don't see any risk. They don't know better. They don't know what's just the storm is brewing. It's the calm. Low volatility is the calm before the storm. And if you can learn to identify when these become dangerous and when to step aside from volatility, and when you can learn when the market is so calm, something's brewing and you need to be cautious and you protect your positions, that's when you become a good trader. But you have to go through both of these. You got to go through the volatility and the calm grind to the upside to really learn those lessons. And unfortunately, I always try to show people what I think is coming and how we're going to attack it and how we're going to manage positions. And when it unfolds in either way, it's not a shock and we have a game plan. The problem is everybody's reactive and they don't want help until they take a loss, until their portfolio is going down, 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 or until the market keeps going higher and higher and they're not in the markets, they don't know what to do and they have no game plan, but they've already missed out on the huge rally. So that's what really drives me nuts is I'm a long-term planner. I'm very proactive. I'm all about managing risks and figuring out what could happen and make sure I'm ready for it, where it feels like the masses are just like, oh no, I'm good because the market's going up. And if they're long a whole bunch of, growth stocks, they're like, I know what I'm doing. I'm making money. But as soon as the market rotates around, they realize, oh crap, what am I doing holding all these? And I just gave back all my gains. So it's just, if people could go from the mindset of being reactive, I'll only do something when I feel pain, to how can I avoid pain and actually benefit from chaos? That's the big shift. But people want the path of least resistance, which is do nothing until there's enough pain that they take action.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. We'll put the links to your work down below, and we can follow you there. Just give us a summary of what we can expect when we go to your website here, Chris.
Yeah, so subscribers, more or less every morning I do a morning video report. I cover the markets on a granular level of intraday charts and daily charts to know what's coming, unfolding in all the asset classes. We talk about any of our positions we have open, how they're moving.
Welcome, friends, to another edition of Economic Update, a weekly program devoted to the economic dimensions of our lives and those of our children. I'm your host, Richard Wolff. Before jumping into today's program, I have a bit of a special announcement. Partly it's about the shirt I'm wearing without the jacket, because it's kind of warm here in New York City where this program is produced. But more importantly, we've decided to do something different this summer. We are going to finish our regular series of programs and then switch starting July 21st. We'll still be producing economic updates, but not in the way we have for the last 12 years. We're taking this summer off and substituting programs that we call the Best of Economic Update. We've gone back and looked at those programs that you like the best, that we like the best, that show something about how American political economy has shifted over the years, for better and for worse. We've put these together, and we think you'll find them as interesting and provocative as we did in compiling them. And then at Labor Day, we will resume the regular programming that you've become used to. What I'll be doing in the meanwhile? Working on Democracy at Work projects, our book publishing program, our video productions, our writing of articles, but also and particularly our new Substack program. And I urge you to take a look at it. Very simply, go to democracyatwork.substack.com for all the Substack kinds of activities of ours that you will find there. Thank you for your understanding, and I look forward to hearing from you about how the Best of Economic Update strikes you all as well. Today's program is devoted to an explosive event that happened here in New York City, where we produce this program and where I live and work. It was the victory in the Democratic primary for mayor of Zoran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist by self-definition, an outsider to the political establishment of the Democratic Party, which has pretty much ruled New York politics for many, many decades. This is a break from that establishment rule. It is shaking up New York City, New York State politics, and as I will explain, it is a bombshell for the whole of the Democratic Party across the United States. And so it's well worth taking some time here on this program to talk about what it means and where it's going and taking us. Okay, Mr. Mamdani won by a great deal. He defeated a former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, who was running for mayor as well in the Democratic primary. A number of major media have said this is the first time a socialist has gotten into office. Shame on those media, because what they're doing is erasing part of the actual history of the United States and of New York City. Socialism is not new to American politics, not at all. I'm going to give you 3 examples of major socialists who won important elections in New York City. And if you did not know these names, look them up, and you'll learn about American history, what you should have been taught in school. The first name is Vito Marcantonio, an Italian-American who won 7 consecutive terms in the United States Congress as a representative from Harlem during the years 1935 to 1950. That's not the time of the dinosaurs. That's not ancient history. That's recent history. He won over and over again and did not run away or hide his socialist associations and sympathies. My next example, Benjamin Davis. Benjamin Davis won and won repeatedly a seat on the New York City Council between 1944 and 1949. Mr. Davis had a double distinction that might surprise you that he was an elected official way back then. He was an active member and leader of the Communist Party in the United States, and in particular of its New York chapter. He was also an African American. A black communist won repeated elections on that kind of a socialist communist program that was very popular, obviously. And the third one is perhaps a name you do know, because he was the mayor of New York, another Italian-American, Fiorello LaGuardia, after whom the airport is named. He was in the Republican Party and loved to tell people how he was a socialist in that party. He won office as a representative in Congress, and then he was the New York City mayor from 1934 to 1946. Across the Great Depression, this man, a socialist, was elected and re-elected mayor of the city of New York. So Zoran Mamdani is not the first, not the only, and all the hullabaloo about it should be taken down 2 or 3 pegs by just this little bit of history. Now, how did he win? He won because all the different ethnic groups in New York got together and supported him in huge numbers. Young people particularly. People who haven't voted, young and old, because they didn't think there was enough of a difference between the Republicans and the Democrats to matter all that much, or among the different Democrats who contested in primaries. He gave them something new and different to vote for that they hadn't seen for decades. Ever since World War II brought to an end the careers of the Marcantonios and the LaGuardias and the Davises. It's been center to the right politics, and that would turn off millions as it did. Zoran Mamdani has turned them back on. Then there's the appeal of his socialism. He wants free subways and buses. He wants to have city-run grocery stores in areas that we now call food deserts, where it's hard to find food to buy in a nearby store, or it's wildly expensive. That's not necessary. That's something the city can deal with. He wants to bring back a robust rent control like we once had in New York, not even a new idea. And he wants to pay for it with taxes on the rich, and that's not new either. If you look closely at what Mr. Mamdani is proposing, it's actually quite like what FDR did back in the 1930s when he was president. He also taxed the rich and the corporations. Nothing new here. The attempt to paint it as wildly revolutionary is achieved a little bit by saying it's altogether new. We've never had this before. That's not true. Simply not true. And also, Mr. Mamdani is now part of a process. Bernie Sanders opened it up when he didn't run away from the label socialist years ago. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has not run away from the Democratic Socialist label either. She is popular, she is increasingly influential, and she and Bernie endorsed Mamdani. He is the latest in a growing socialist presence in the United States. Every European country, France, Britain, Italy, Germany, have socialist parties, socialist politicians. The leader of the Spanish government today is a socialist. The largest faction in the French National Assembly is socialist. It's only in America that they were purged out of our politics, and we had to suffer the stifling duopoly of the last 70 years. It's breaking apart. Part of the decline of the American empire, part of the decline of American capitalism, is the explosive growth of a socialism that speaks to people in the successful way that Mr. Mamdani did in New York at the end of June in the year 2025. Here is the city, New York, that Mr. Mamdani, if he wins in November in the general election, he will inherit. And I'm an economist, so you will understand why I picked these statistics. New York City is the #1 city in the United States. The whole world knows that. It's the financial capital. It's in many ways, the cultural capital, and so on. But here's something you may not have known. As of May 20th this year, 2025, New York is the richest city by far in the United States. It counts among its residents 66 billionaires. Keep that in mind. 66 billionaires. No other city has anything like that. On top of that, 818 people who own $100 million or more. And then comes a number that really surprised me. How many millionaires are there in New York City? 384,500. 384,000 millionaires in one city. That's why it's the richest city. That kind of stupefying wealth can be, should be, a very lucrative tax basis for a city to not only be the place where the richest people congregate, but a showplace for what a country and a city could be, but it isn't. New York City also ranks as one of the 10 poorest cities in America, measured by the percentage of its people who live at or below the official poverty line. There is no reason for that, no need for that kind of inequality in our society. And I will come back to that in the second half of the program when I talk about all the things Mr. Mamdani can do, will likely do, some of them for sure, to address everything I've just described. Stay with us. In a moment, we'll see where the Mamdani administration, if he succeeds in November, will take us, or at least what the opportunities and options facing him will be. Thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Before we jump into the second half of today's show, I wanted to thank you for your very generous response to our fundraising efforts this year, and in particular in the last couple of months. And in part responding to that, we are extending the availability of our limited edition linen-covered hardcover version of Understanding Capitalism, the book I wrote and that we have been making available now for quite a while. If you are interested, I will be signing copies of that hardcover, and they will be available to you as they have been over the last few weeks. Just simply send an email to us at info@democracyatwork.info and put in the subject line limited edition. We will send you all the information you need to order and receive your copy, signed copy, of Understanding Capitalism in its hardback. And thank you again for your kind attention to the fundraising dimension of what we do. Welcome back, friends, to the second half of Economic Update. We're talking about the Mamdani bombshell victory in the New York mayoral Democratic primary. In the first half, we talked about how to understand the context, where it comes from, what it's about. Now I want to talk about where it's going to take us. What is he going to do? What opportunities does he actually have? I want to begin by talking about what he means by socialism, because things are being said about him and the label socialist that are nonsense, and you should be clear about that in your mind. Socialism, in the modern sense of the term, is about 2 centuries old. It starts in the 2 centuries ago in England, and it spreads with capitalism. You know, socialism is capitalism's self-criticism. Wherever capitalism has gone, socialism is its shadow. No escape from it, never has been. That's why socialism is now active in every country on earth, either socialism or communism or both of them. Criticisms of capitalism are exactly as old as the system itself. And people, therefore, have developed different meanings of socialism. In Scandinavia, it means the government regulates, that's all. It has a social program, so the inequality that capitalism everywhere generates is limited. You have a minimum wage, you have maximum taxation, so we keep the system going by not letting capitalism blow it apart. That's one kind of socialism. In the Soviet Union, you had another kind. The government comes in and runs things. Some socialists believe in that, others don't. China is again yet different because it's kind of like a hybrid. Half of the Chinese economy is private capitalist enterprises. The other half is government-run enterprises. Now, China has achieved the fastest economic growth of any country ever in the history of the human race. There's an argument that that hybrid may be better than either public or private alone. That's another conversation. But socialism is rich with all of the experiences, all of the efforts, some that succeeded, some that failed, across the last 2 centuries. To say socialism is this means you're ignorant. Socialism isn't an is. Socialisms are many and different. Now, I'm going to talk about a whole raft of things that Mr. Mamdani can do as a mayor. And why is it possible for me to do that? Because I'm aware of that history. I'm aware that there were lots of mayors in lots of places over the last 2 centuries who made all kinds of socialist programs and socialist achievements, and some socialist failures too. But we're not starting from scratch, friends. We don't need to be frightened by specters of how bad it can go, as if we don't know how well it has gone in the past. Okay, one kind of socialism actually is called municipal socialism. It's a particular socialism that focuses on this question: what could a person do who was elected a socialist mayor of a city or town if the larger economy remains capitalist, but people have voted for a socialist in that town? First, let me show you how important this is. Back in 1911, that's 100 years ago, not ancient history, the number of American cities whose mayors were socialists, 73 cities. I particularly have done research on 2 of them. The city of Bridgeport in Connecticut, that's the 3rd largest city in Connecticut, had a socialist mayor. And the city of Milwaukee in Wisconsin had a socialist mayor, more than one. So this is not, again, new, and they tried all kinds of things, and I'm going to talk to you in a moment about some of the things they tried that Mr. Mamdani can do here. In the United Kingdom, a country similar to ours, there's a much more developed municipal socialism. And the basis of the Labour Party used to be the labor unions on the one hand and the socialist cities who did a lot of things for themselves. They produced their own energy. They produced their own food. They produced their own local transport and things like that as a collective community project, not a private profit enterprise. And that was the political base of Jeremy Corbyn, the most dramatic leader the British Labour Party has had in decades, the one preceding the current dud, Mr. Starmer. Okay, let's turn then. What could Mr. Mamdani do? I'm going to start, and this is a list of mine, not a list of his. He will do some of the things, I suspect, that I'm about to tell you about. I'm sure he'll figure others that I have not the time or the knowledge to give to you now. But it'll give you a good idea, and if it provides something for Mr. Mamdani and his administration, so much the better. We already have in New York City rent control. That's when socialists earlier in New York's history wanted to put a limit on how much landlords could gouge out of tenants through high rents. We know that rents are at record high levels. That's partly because rent control was limited and broken and stopped. Rent stabilization, which is a weaker kind of control, was substituted, and it is very limited. We could use, and we desperately need, a reinforced rent control operation. Don't need new legislation, it already exists. Don't need a new idea, it's already here. Just take it further, be more aggressive. And the basis for it is called democracy. The number of tenants is huge, and the number of landlords is very small. If we lower the rents, It helps the majority and it will hurt the minority. But if you look at large numbers of our landlord class, you will see that they are among the richest in our community. They can take it, and the tenants need it, and the city will be revitalized if it stops being merely a playground for the rich. That's an easy one. Here's one that's a little more creative. The city could begin what it did after World War II, become a builder of low-rent, high-quality public housing. And where might it do that? I have two suggestions. If you look across the city of New York, you will be astonished to learn what I recently learned, that we have an enormous number of very minimally used golf courses. Yeah, huge expanses of land for the playing of golf. The number of people who play golf, all due respect to them, is very, very small. The housing problem is immense. How about condensing the many golf courses we have into one per borough? What about converting the others half into housing, half into the beautiful parks that we need more of in this city? Imagine a city administration taking the initiative to do that for the people. And here's a second one. What about buildings that are sitting empty, often for years, while the city wrangles in the courts to get the deadbeat owners of these buildings to pay the back taxes they owe? Why not short-circuit all of this and make it crystal clear we're not going to have people waiting for apartments when we have buildings that the city could seize, should seize, use eminent domain law that provides for this sort of thing, get it done, rehabilitate the apartments, and provide them lottery basis to do it to people who need housing. Come on, Mr. Mamdani could become a hero for tens of thousands of New Yorkers who could benefit from such a program. Let me take you another way. Con Edison provides the energy that we rely on. We who heat our homes with electricity, as many of us do. We who use electricity for all of the modern life conveniences that require it. Every business uses electricity. Well, let me tell you something you may not have known. Con Edison charges 33.51 cents per kilowatt hour. 33 plus cents an hour. Keep that number in your head. What is the national average cost of electricity delivered, kilowatt per kilowatt hour? Here we go, 16.15 cents. The national average is half of what we all pay. And make no mistake, in your rent is the cost of electricity. When you go into a restaurant and have a hamburger, part of the price you pay is the electricity used up in holding that fridge to go and the stove to work and all the rest. Why are we doing this? Thousands of communities across America now produce their own electricity or buy it wholesale from a commercial and then redistribute it to the city at cost, bringing down the national average so it's less than half of what Con Ed. Mr. Mamdani should address that question. Free mass transit, he's talked about that. There are many cities around the world that have tried and worked with, some very successfully, to make public transportation free. Municipal daycare programs, all the people who need quality, safe, secure daycare for their kids, elder care for the older folks, summer camps for young children, and for older children, work camps where the children get paid to boot. How about a $2,000 rebate to every city resident for tuition paid either at a CUNY college or a CUNY community school? And where will the money come from to pay for these things? Well, I told you, let's tax the rich, finally. And at what rate? At the rate we used to tax them. Nothing new, nothing all that. Revolutionary. Don't be fooled by scare stories. The income tax in New York City goes from 3 to 4%, depending on how rich you are. And it stops at $50,000 a year. Everybody who earns over $50,000 pays 4%. Why between 3 and 4? Why not 3 to 10? Why not 3 to 15? What's going on here? These are favors to the rich. Property tax works like that too. And there are many other ways. A city as rich as what I told you at the beginning can pay. And for the rich, it's nothing. If you're a millionaire, a 1% tax takes away from you next to nothing. You'll make more than that in a year in your stocks. And you can deduct it against your federal income tax. It's little to them. It can transform the city because there's so many of them. Last point. Scare the people by saying, oh, if you tax the rich, they'll leave. No, they won't. There is no other New York City to go to. They're not going to give up what they came here for. And the companies that threaten to go, here's your answer to them. If you go, I'm the mayor. I will make sure the people of this city know that you did that you abandoned the city rather than pay your fair share in taxes. You think that's going to do a lot of good to the people buying your product that now comes from outside? It won't. And here's one better. After you leave, we will seize your factory and we will convert it into a worker co-op. The jobs will keep. You, we will wave goodbye to. Don't underestimate what the socialists can do, because it's a new world for them and a population that has been waiting for this a long time. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you in the best of in the weeks ahead, and then resuming face-to-face at Labor Day. Thank you.
So this is not democracy. This is an oligarchy in America. Unfortunately, because of money in politics, we have become the most corrupt nation on earth.